Let's go! What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and we are back. I am back. It has been a little bit. I took some time off, had to rejuvenate myself, get the juices back going, and I'm happy to be back. And on today's show, we're going to dive into the NBA awards. We're going to discuss everything. We're going to go through all the awards. First team we're going to talk about, and I got a couple great guys joining me that we'll be discussing the NBA awards. Today is the last day. It is Sunday, last day of the NBA regular season. Two of our teams here that we're representing aren't going to be in the playoffs. Only one guy's team will be in the playoffs. I'm used to it. So this is nothing to, I have no real feeling. Like I got a little taste last year. And then, of course, back to normal being the Knicks fan. But I got two great guests with me. First, VP of Off the Ball Network, my guy, Mo Solo Cup Murphy. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, bro? Hey, it's been a minute. You know, what better way to be back than this, the 2.5 stars that we have here on today's show.
I wonder who's the half star you're talking about, Mo.
Sorry, half a star.
It's like the longest yard, the half a star. With
and half a star.
Half a star. And he's not a half a star to me. He's a full star to me. Welcome back to the network. Kenneth, Cotterill, Competitive Hedge Pod. What's going on, buddy?
I was going to say in that intro video, there was a lot of Knicks and Lakers highlights I haven't seen in a minute.
Gonna have to edit that.
I saw Alex Caruso throw an alley-oop to LeBron, and I almost shed a tear, given how bad we've been this year. It's fine. The Heat will get bounced quick, and then Mo will be back to being sad like the rest of us. But thank you for calling me a half a star. I fully expected you to not even give me the half star, so excited to get going.
Yes. So, like I said, happy to have you guys joining me today. So, let's dive right into it. Today we're going to talk about the NBA awards. We're going to break down our MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, all that good stuff, and then discuss our all NBA first team because that's kind of been the hot story because there's going to be some guys that are going to get left off that probably are definitely deserving, and maybe an MVP that might finish second, which is kind of crazy, man. If there's a year that it might happen, as crazy this year, it might happen this year. That's how wild this season. So let's get right into it, guys. Let's go. I want to go. Let's start from the bottom with the award. Let's go with the sixth man of the year. So Mo, I think we kind of know who this is pretty much. I think it's kind of unanimous. But Mo, sixth man of the year, who is it?
Yeah, it's for me. It's Tyler Hero, and like I said, I'm. We talked about this pre-show. He might win it unanimously. He might be the unanimous sixth man of the year. I think it would have been close had Jordan Poole not had to start so many games, after Steph's injury. I think it still would have been close. I would have gave the nod still to Tyler Hero, but what Jordan Poole has been doing this year is amazing. He'll win another award for me later on. But yeah, it's Tyler Hero. I mean, like Kenneth said, 21, 5-5. Better than a lot of starting point guards numbers. And he's been consistent with what he's done all year. He's literally been, kind of the engine that makes the Heat go. Essentially, he's been the go-to scorer at times. Jimmy Butler missed a lot of games. Kyle Lowry missed a lot of games. Tyler Hero had missed a few games early on in the season, but, Bam Adebayo missed a lot of games. And so it is Tyler Hero for me. I don't even feel like there needs to be much of a breakdown, go into grave detail. It's Tyler Hero. And like we said, I think he might win it unanimously.
Did we lose Chris?
Chris, are you there?
I think we lost Chris.
Uh-oh.
Okay, well, Chris figures out his audio. Yeah, it's Tyler Hero. It's not close.
Sorry about that. I had a little audio issue. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Tyler Hero for Mo. Kenneth, thank you for, you're a podcasting, pro, so you know how to transition to all that. So you're sixth man of the year.
I mean, it's not close. It's Tyler Hero. He's 21, 5-5. He's got better numbers than half the starting guards in the NBA. Probably closer to 3/4 of the guards in the NBA. The only reason why he doesn't start on this team is because they like what Lowry brings from a veteran standpoint and his defense. So Tyler Hero, it's not close. If anyone else gets votes, then the media is definitely just homers for their hometown guys.
Yeah, it really isn't close at all. Like, he's having just a very good season. And if he was a starter, maybe he I've heard people say he could have been maybe an all-star this year. That's how good he was this year. He's having just a really good season. And, the big reason why, Miami is, where they are, the number 1 seed. So to me, this is easy. Like, I've heard, like we talked about before we got on, some people, Kevin Love, Jordan Poole was in there before, I think he's ineligible because he started too many games and all that. But just having a really good season, Tyler. I think he's shooting like 39% from three, just, close to 19 a game, 20, almost 20 a game. So having a really good season, big reason why Miami is where they are. So I think that's unanimous.
And amazing what 12 months has done, because remember last year when people were calling for Tyler Hero's head and like how they should have got rid of him and they should have made this trade and that trade. Yeah, I see one guy on the screen that said that. After having 37 a playoff game and getting a little bit overhyped for the fact that he was 20 years old going into his second year. He's going to be a great player for them in the long term. This is also why Pat Riley is one of the best GMs, because he sits there and it's like, this kid, he's a kid. Like, give him some time. And then he bounced back this year to have a great year. Now, once this Lowry contract is up, you just pay Tyler and you keep it rolling with Bam and whoever else down the road.
Yes, sir. All right, so let's go to the next award, Most Improved. This is another award that's kind of, I don't know what the actual criteria is for Most Improved. It's kind of like, is it a player that went from averaging 6 points a game to 18, or is it just a guy who just took his game from, borderline all-star to, all NBA, kind of like we saw with Julius Randle last year? So who's your guys' most improved, and what was your criteria for most improved? Mo, you go first.
So my most improved player is actually Jordan Poole. And it's now, this one was outside of obviously MVP. This was a close one as well, because I'm sure y'all have different answers and y'all will say your reasons why. And I think like there's about 3 or 4 players. If you go that route, I wouldn't argue it. It's just, for me, it's Jordan Poole. First off, what he was doing as a 6-man for Golden State. Like, we knew going into the season, like, oh, they're going to be absolutely missing Klay Thompson, for the first, up until about Christmas is around the time he returned, right after Christmas. So we're like, oh, it's going to be, who's going to fill that void? We were talking about Andrew Wiggins going to have to step up. He became an all-star this year. He did. But then I look at Jordan Poole, and maybe it's a little bit recent, but he's been very consistent at what he's done all year. And then look at how he stepped up for Golden State after Steph Curry went out. Yeah, they started losing a few games, I guess you could say, from being on top, falling on the wayside, right? They were like first, second in the Western Conference, went on a little losing streak. You're like, oh man, like, Golden State could drop down to the 5th or 6th seed. A lot of people were projecting it. They're like, oh, this is a play-in team, without Steph Curry. And then Jordan Poole just kind of went on a tear of scoring like over 30 almost every night. It seemed like he's at that 28. He scored 35. He scored 33. He went through a stretch where he averaged like 27 points a game over a 9-game stretch. Like, which is, in a 9-game stretch, averaging 27 points a game. Like, that's what all NBA players are averaging. And he did that in a stretch. And like you said, this is improvement, right? Like, we talk about how well Golden State drafts and develop players. Essentially, their whole roster, most of their roster are guys that they drafted and developed. And that goes with Jordan Poole. And then my criteria is just like, I don't know. I don't think about it too. It's just more like, what were you last year? And did you take a leap? And it's kind of like, who took the biggest leap? If you were a borderline all-star player and your big leap was like your borderline first team all NBA, kind of like how Julius Randle did last year, your leap took your team to the playoffs as the 5th seed or fourth seed last year. That's a huge leap. Like, that's most improved. Like, you took a non-playoff team to a 4 seed in the Eastern Conference on the backs of how well you were playing. That's most improved. Jordan Poole, after they went through their slump, essentially with what he was doing offensively, kept Golden State in a top of the NBA and a top of the Western Conference, where they're the 3rd seed right now. They had a chance to be 2nd seed. They won't get the 2nd seed, but keeping them at a 3rd seed when everybody else was saying after that slump that they're going to fall to the wayside. Dallas is going to jump them. Denver might come for them. Like, this is going to be something we're going to see for the rest of the season. So just the leap that he took, like he took that next step that you want to see from a young player who's improving. And then, just for like the future, Jordan Poole is going to be an expensive guy. Like they're going to have to pay him the bag. They're not paying him $40 million, but he probably went from a guy where you see like, $18 million a year. Like he might get that like 25. He might get or in the mid 20s, kind of like a Alonzo Ball type contract where he's at least making $20 million a year. But even in today's league, like your average starter is making $20 million a year. So I'm going with Jordan Poole for me. But it's very
he's gonna hit triple digits. I think someone's gonna give him $100 million. Like they're gonna look at that score. His scoring has gone up every year. Like it's gone up significantly. And you think he has Steph, he's got Clay, he's got a bunch of guys that he's kind of sharing the ball with. Like him as a primary scorer on a team, he could get to that 24, 25 points per game and maybe be an all-star down the line. So someone's going to give him the bag, whenever, he's eligible. I think, what is he? He was a first-round pick, so he may have another year or two, so, they're going to have to figure it because they got a lot of money strapped between Clay, Steph, and and Draymond, and they got Wiseman, Wiggins, like they got a lot of, and they got to figure out what Wiseman they're gonna pay him. They got some guys they got to figure out. So Jordan Poole he's averaging 18 a game this year, up from 12 a game last year. He's improved every year, so he's a big reason why they were able to stay afloat, without with Clay out, kind of they didn't really miss a beat that much, with Clay out. Obviously, Clay does some things that are that are very valuable, but he's played great basketball this year, and just shooting the ball, just 92% free throw shooter. I think he's like 44%. I got the stats right here. Let me get the exact. So shooting 36% from three. Like I said, 18 a game, 45%. He's some good splits there. So great season for him. Ken, who's your most improved?
I like to believe that this is the most improved award, but based off the last 5 to 7 years, it's just turned into who's the best first-time All-Star. I mean, you look at a number of years ago, Devontae Graham goes from being barely on an NBA roster to averaging 18 a game, and he finished like 4th. Like,
yeah,
he should have won it that year.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the criteria is like, what is it?
Because when you look back like a number of years ago, like you had guys like Danny Granger winning it and Boris Diaw, guys that weren't all-stars like that year. But now it's just turned into first-time all-stars because look at the last 5 years. Giannis, his first all-star year, he got it. Then it was Oladipo when he had his good year. Then you had Siakam the year that the Raptors won the title. Then you had Ingram, first-time all-star. And then you had Randall last year. So if we're basing it off of what the criteria has become, for me, it's DeJounte Murray. I mean, I look at what he's done, and the Spurs, yes, they're only in the play-in game. They are still very below 500. But he went from 15-7-5 to 21-9-8. Like, that is a significant leap all around. Like, it's not like we see guys all the time, they jump up in scoring numbers. DeJounte's just gotten better at being an all-around basketball player. He gets guys involved. I think he's had double digits, triple doubles this year. Like, he's been phenomenal for a Spurs team that I thought was going to be the 14th or 15th seed in the Western Conference this year. Yeah. And the fact that they're the 10 seed because they had a guy take a big leap. He became a first-time All-Star. He shoots 46% from the floor as well as a guard, which is above the league average when it comes to guard play. I look at him and I just think he's played the majority of the games. He's improved in every area. He's a better defender than he was last year, and he shoots a high percentage. To me, that encapsulates what most improved has become now, which is the best first-time All-Star. And for me, it was DeJounte this year.
He's been incredible this year. Like he's almost averaging a triple-double. Like, and that's impressive. And like I think a lot of people thought this was finally the year the Spurs were just going to be dreadful. Like absolutely dreadful. Like I thought I was like, all right, this is finally going to be it. Like they're finally going to be bad, like a very bad team. And they're bad-ish. The play-in is probably giving them life, obviously. made them maybe better than what they really are. But they're in, they're in contention to get in the playoffs, and he's a big reason why. He's having an absolutely phenomenal season, and big jump. Last year was around 16 a game. This year, 22. He's averaging, he's shooting close to 80% from the foul line, 46% from the field, started every game that he's played this year, playing, I think he leads the league in steals. I think he's the league leader in steals a game, around 2. And like I said, almost a triple double, almost a triple double, like over 8 rebounds, over 9 assists a game. Like, he's having a phenomenal season. And this to me is hard because there's other guys like Darius Garland too, having another phenomenal first time All-Star too, right?
Yep.
Having that big leap too. So for me, I'm gonna go with Ken too. I believe it's DeJounte Murray for most improved. And like I said, Darius Garland is in this too, and it was tough. It was literally 1 or 2. Another guy for me, Desmond Bane, is another guy that was in that criteria. I saw people put Ja Morant.
You could put Ja strictly looking at numbers' sake because he went from 19-7-4 to 27-6-6.
Yes.
So he too has become more well-rounded, and he shoots almost 50% as a guard. But I think what hurt his case was he's missed a lot of time towards the end of the year. Like, when you are missing a third of the season, I think it's going to affect Ja. It affects him in MVP. It's affecting him in this award. You could see it affect him in all ends as well, because when Ja was healthy, he was a first-team guard, the way that he was playing. But when you miss time, you got to give it to the guys that are available.
Yes, you do. And like I said, I've seen some people, that's their criteria. Like, they feel like he's taken it from all-star level to MVP level, and I get that. But like I said, this is really tough for me. Garland definitely deserves some most improved honors because he's averaging 21-9. His Cavs team is in the playoffs. I think they're 7th seed right now, so they're in the playoffs. I mean, no one thought the Cavs would be this good. I cannot find anyone that thought the Cavs would be this good. I cannot find a single soul. I listen to a lot of podcasts like you guys. I don't remember anyone thinking the Cavs are going to be this good. So he deserves credit too, but just the way DeJounte Murray's played this year, he is taking his game to another level that I didn't see. I felt like Darius could take that level, and that's probably what factors into. I definitely saw Darius, like, once he gets healthy and once Sexton went down, I always said if he gets the keys, I feel like Darius could take that level. I didn't see that with DeJounte. I thought DeJounte was what he was, around 16 a game, 7-7. I thought that's who he was. He's taking his game to the next level. So that's been a bright spot for Spurs. Walker definitely is going to love this. I think we're too. Walker's gonna, he's gonna be way too excited to hear this. But to me, so Mo, you pick Jordan Poole. Me and Ken go with DeJounte Murray as most improved. All right. Let's go with the coach of the year. Another tough one. Last year went to Tom Thibodeau, and that was kind of, people were like, that's another one where we're like, all right, are we giving it to the team with the most wins? Or are we going for the team that came out of nowhere and, surprise people? So this is another award that's kind of like, the criteria based. So Ken, you go first. Who's your coach of the year?
I think it's Taylor Jenkins in Memphis, and I don't think it should necessarily be close based off the expectations that we had for a lot of other teams. Where did we see Memphis being this year? Anywhere from the 5 to the 8 seed probably in the West. He missed Ja Morant for a third of the season, and they went 20-3 without Ja Morant.
Miss Jordan,
some of that has to
Jackson
come down
too.
to coaching.
Jackson missed games. They a lot of guys. Terrence Clark, a lot of guys missed a lot of games, and they were blowing out. And then just win games, Ken. They were blowing teams out by like 30.
but here's the thing. So they're the 2 seed in the Western Conference. Clearly the 2 seed too. Like, it's not close between them and third. So they're clearly the 2 seed with one all-star on the roster who missed a third of the season. And outside of that, they just have a lot of like good pros, like Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks. Like they've got a lot of good pros, but not like, I don't know if there's a guy on this roster that I see being even a future all-star outside of maybe Jaren Jackson sneaking in if they're like the 1 seed one year. So you know, you look at Phoenix, we expected them to be the first or second seed in the West. They're clearly the best team in the NBA this year, the way that they've played. So I think you could give him some consideration, and you could maybe give Billy Donovan with Chicago, them having the injuries that they had and still being a good team. And then Eric Spoelstra is always going to be in the conversation because he's a phenomenal coach for Miami, and they've had a great season as well. But I just think we didn't expect Memphis to be the second seed in the West by a clear margin, having Ja Morant miss time. And so for me, I don't think it's that close, and I think a lot of people might be slighting Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, what he's done, like you said, Ken, you know, Ja's missed a nice portion of the season. Clark has missed a nice portion of the season. Jaren Jackson has missed sport, and they're beating teams at full strength. They beat the Milwaukee a few nights ago with Milwaukee at full strength, and they dominated them, and there was no Ja. You know, they absolutely not, and they've been so impressive defensively.
Remember when they beat OKC by 70 and they didn't have Ja? Like,
yeah.
To me, that...
I forgot. Oh, my goodness. I forgot they won by 70.
And look, I know it's OKC. Like don't want to kick a team while they're down. But, like, you lost a professional basketball game by 70 points and they didn't have their best player. Like,
yes.
That's wild to me.
You should get contracted for that. Like, and OKC,
you should get demoted. Whoever wins the G League takes your spot.
You take the Santa Clara, whoever the Santa Clara is, you know, take this. Like, it just, and I could do a whole show about OKC and what the heck they're doing this year, because it should be illegal what they're doing. Like, it's tanking, and then there's like, yeah, we don't give a crap. Like, we're just gonna.
You mean like Pokashevsky getting a triple-double and then he like doesn't see the floor the next night?
Like they're playing guys. I'm like, okay, this guy's not an NBA player. Like, why is he? Like,
oh, buddy, that's just the hook shot. Like, what
they brought back the hook shot. Like Kareem has been asking for that for years, but it's like probably not that. That's not the guy.
He's like, maybe not in OKC. Like I was hoping like Gobert would develop it or somebody.
If Gobert decided to, you know, get creative on offense,
or like Giannis or somebody, add this guy.
Some random dude on OKC, bring back the hook. He's like, Kareem's like, damn.
And it's a guard, like a short guy.
And that's a whole show in itself of what OKC is doing. Like, I think who's the GM again? I forgot his name.
Presti.
Sam Presti gets way too much credit
for stacking.
Way too much credit. This man, listen, you give him credit for drafting who we draft. Not to get off topic, but he gets me pissed off. But not to get off topic, but like he gets way too. Like this man drafted the play. Obviously, we know who he drafted: James Harden, Russell Westbrook. You know, Kevin Durant, but they ain't there. So, you know, and then like, you know, getting Paul George and then he leaves, you know, getting all these guys and then like, getting a billion draft picks. And it's like, okay, what do you plan on doing with that?
You stockpile draft picks and then still have trade rumors in the offseason of trading away Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
And that's the thing, you give him the max.
But this is the guy that gets credit for just giving away star players so they can draft. Okay, well, let's see what you actually do with these picks, because you almost gave away what should be an all-star player every year in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and it's just the fact that he's in OKC that he's not going to get all-star consideration. He still might
give him away. He still might
look at it this summer and say, you know what?
He's too old. He doesn't fit our profile, 23.
You know what? I got 25 first-round picks over the next 8 years. Let me get 28. Let me get 3 more and get 28 so that I could just hold on to draft picks and everybody could praise me about how well of a general manager I am for having 1,000 first-round picks and no type of success.
And nothing come of it. Like you're tanking every year. Like and
so
like
Sam Presti doesn't win GM of the year, is what you're saying.
No. He's held on to that job probably
too long. He'd win it because he got the backing of LeBron this year. He caught the eye of LeBron, and LeBron was like, "Oh, I love what they're doing at OKC," and everybody's like, "Yeah, I'm sure. I bet you wouldn't go over there right now, though. Guarantee you wouldn't sign it. You wouldn't." Bronny's not going there.
He might have had a better chance with that roster than the old folks home that we got over in LA. So
you know what? You might be right.
They might be a play-in team. You put them on a play-in team.
They played good early when they were actually like trying. They played good early, and then they're like, you know what? That winning stuff we're doing, I don't like that. Shay, you're out for the season somehow. Like
they started seeing Chet, Paolo and Jabari Smith ball out. They're like, all right, let's start winning, bro.
You know what? We're gonna get one of those guys. Next year we might try. And then when that I can't say is that guy's name. I was he has the long name like a W. When he comes out next year, they're gonna tank next year for him. So it's gonna be then Bronny. Then like
instead of winning games, they look for the guy they should tank for. Like they focus on a different aspect of basketball.
Yeah. They're waiting Mo Jr., Baby Mo. You know, they're waiting for Baby Mo to come out in 18 years.
So there's eye on him.
They see his highlight reel on Instagram. They're like, okay, maybe we should tank for 18
Mo
years.
is 100% stepping in as the LeVar Ball, just avoiding him getting drafted by OKC. Like, he ain't taking no interview. I'd rather he go to Denver. I'd rather he go to Portland. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Archie Manning and be like, nah, we ain't going.
Yeah, he's not going there. No. I'm not moving to Oklahoma City, so no, he's not going
to do that. We ain't doing that. All right, Mo, who's your coach of the year?
So I feel like I'm gonna surprise y'all.
Okay. I like surprises.
I do feel like I'm gonna surprise y'all, especially with everything that Kenneth said. So before I say it, I want to take your cap off of right now and think about things that we were saying, especially in the chat in the beginning of the season. We thought this team should tank. We thought this team would tank. We didn't think this team would really be much good at all. Like, we thought they'd be borderline like a play-in team at best, and they're the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. Nick Nurse. I'm gonna go with Nick Nurse, and here's why. You talk about expectations, right? And like Kenneth said, I think essentially Toronto has kind of become. They're not the 2nd seed in the Western Conference, but as far as expectations of what you thought you had for them going into the season, like you thought this was going to be a bad team that should tank. Like literally we all had our conversations about it. We're like, everything they've done, Pascal Siakam isn't necessarily, is he going to be, he was the best player going into the season. Are we like, do we see a team with Pascal Siakam being the best player really being a good team when we saw Miami improved? We thought, we knew Ben Simmons was going to get traded at some point. So we're like, okay, Philly will be right there. All those things. And I would say Nick Nurse, what Toronto has done, I think they've exceeded expectations. They're not the only team that has. So, but I have to give it to Nick Nurse. We know he's one of the top coaches in the league anyway, but I think he's fully proved that with what he's done with Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby and all those guys. But for them to be the 5 seed in what we consider like probably the best the Eastern Conference has been in 15 years. Like, this is the deepest the Eastern Conference has been. Like, this is a Brooklyn Nets team. I know due to injury and all that, but I'm saying like this is a Nets team that for half a season had Kyrie, KD, and James Harden, traded for Ben Simmons, added Andre Drummond and Seth Curry. But that team is a play-in team. Like, that's how loaded the Eastern Conference is, even with due to injury and Kyrie, for a while playing part-time. Like, that is a play-in team. And the Toronto Raptors are a better team than them right now. Would they beat them in a 7-game series? I don't think so. But that would be something to pay attention to just because, Kyrie Irving wouldn't be able to play in Toronto. But I got to give it to Nick Nurse with everything that Toronto has done, being the 5 seed in a loaded Eastern Conference, having really no expectations. We thought this was going to be a bad team. They should tank, start looking at the not necessarily Chet and Paolo Banchero and those guys, but like they should start looking at who some of the top guys are coming out, because that's probably where they're going to be. And we expect them not to be the 15th seed in the Eastern Conference, but 11 or 12, maybe where they had an outside chance of looking in on the play-in, but wouldn't get there. So to be a 5 seed, a winning team, almost 50 wins. I think they got 50 wins. They got 47 or 48 wins. 48. I think they got 48. So if they win today, if they play today, they would finish 49 wins. So you're talking about an almost 50-win team for a team that we thought should tank. So I'm gonna give it to Nick Nurse. People probably thought I'd be biased and give it to Coach Spo and say he's the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. How can you not consider him? But I think there's certain people who, like, Coach Spo got on the list. To me, he got his love and respect when he got ranked. When those rankings came out, he got ranked as one of the 15 greatest coaches in NBA history. To me, he got his love, and he's widely regarded as he's an all-time great coach. So now I want to let everybody else start kind of building their legacies and things like that. Yeah, Spo could get it. Yeah, Monty Williams could get it with what Phoenix has done. But when you talk about team expectations, it comes down to players, but it also comes down to coaching, because like even with all the turmoil that Philly's had, like we would say as good as Philly's been, like would you get Doc Rivers because he hasn't handled everything the right way? So like you do have to have a good coach. Look at the talent. I know they were old and things like that, but look at the talent that the Lakers had. But having a bad coach, you say you're a defensive minded guy and you have a terrible defensive team. Like coaching does play a factor into how good your team could be. So my coach of the year is Nick Nurse.
And I was really surprised how good the Raptors, like I said, Mo, like I thought maybe a play-in team. I thought they would take this year where they would be kind of trying to figure things out. Obviously, Kyle Lowry's gone and all that. I wasn't sure what we get with Siakam and all that because he kind of had a down last few years. But he's played obviously incredible basketball, especially of late. He's been really, really good. I mean, he won dumb player of the night, I think a few times already. They have almost a 50-win basketball team. I did not see that at all. Maybe a play-in team.
I had them as the 13 in the East.
When
I went back and looked at my preseason rankings, I thought it was Orlando, Detroit, and then them. So they've definitely exceeded expectations.
Like we thought this was a bad team. Like we literally thought this was a bad team that should tank. They might, I know they had just recently signed Van Vliet, but we're like, they could trade him or look to trade. And then there were rumors that they might trade Siakam. We were seeing rumors that Siakam go to Golden State. Like, would that make sense? How would that trade work? So basically, we seen them trade, and get Precious Achiuwa and they brought Goran Dragic in. So they kind of were telling us like, you would receive it as they might be tanking. Like they're bringing in Goran Dragic. They didn't bring him in to help the team, right? And he knew he didn't want to play in Toronto. So they had made some moves. With getting rid of Kyle Lowry, like that was the whole, okay, Toronto's probably not going to be that good this year. Like they're moving off of Kyle Lowry. They're starting their rebuild. Like we thought this was a team that was starting to rebuild. They found the core, OG Anunoby, Van Vliet, and Pascal Siakam.
Scotty Barnes too, maybe a rookie of the year.
I mean, that's the thing I think that's been the difference with Toronto. Barnes turned out to be what we all thought he wasn't going to be, which was good on offense. Gary Trent Jr. showed up for them all year. Precious Achiuwa and Boucher have given them a lot in the front court. So I think the concern with Toronto was always, they only have like 6 guys. So like,
and we were surprised with the Scotty Barnes pick. I remember draft
injuries are going to kill them. That's what we thought.
Everyone thought it was going to be Suggs.
Yeah, like they thought it was a bad, like they thought not bad pick as far as like people didn't think, especially with having OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam, like we're like
another wing, Kyle
Lowry, like they're going to bring another guard in, like they're going to get their young guard, him and Van Vliet and Gary Trent Jr. coming off the bench or Jalen Suggs coming off the bench. However we looked at it, we're like that's what we thought Toronto was going to do, get a young core and start rebuilding. I didn't think their rebuild would be hard because they do have a core to build around.
Yeah. I thought it'd be quick.
They don't get a lot of free agents either. So you're like, okay, we got a core. We know Siakam can ball, whatever. But just they started making moves. The moves they made in offseason was telling us, hey, they're probably rebuilding. They're probably kind of starting over with having a core, though, so you don't have to fully start over. And so for them to be the 5 seed has been absolutely amazing. You have to give credit to the players, to Siakam, the way he's played post All-Star break, the way Gary Trent has played all year, the way Fred VanVleet has played all year. But everything always does come down to coaching. Like coaching is very important.
Nurse hasn't been scared to play guys on his bench that like you look at their names and it's like that guy actually played minutes this year. But it's because he has no fear of playing like Watambe or Malachi Flynn or Banton, like guys that like they've played minutes for them this year when it's like, who the hell are these guys? Like, why aren't they on their G League team? But he has faith in them to go out and give them minutes. So I think that's where Nurse's coaching is different from a lot of other guys. Some coaches look at like their 9th, 10th guy and they're like, maybe not. But I think Nurse isn't scared to do that.
No, he's definitely he's definitely
his
one
time in the G League, I tell you, his time in the G League, telling Kawhi Leonard stories about G League, and he's like, "Bro, what are you talking about?" That was a funny story.
Yeah, he's just a tremendous coach. To me, he's top 3 coach in this league. He is absolutely tremendous. What he's done this year with this squad, where they're a legit threat to get out of the first round. Like they can get out of the first round. And like I said, I thought they would be a year away from being a playoff team. Like a top 6 playoff. I thought a year just figuring things out, and then next year they'll get back to being in the playoff hunt. They definitely were ahead of expectations. So my coach here, obviously you guys brought up a lot. You could even mention guys like Ty Lue. Ty Lue hasn't had his 2 best players for essentially almost the whole year. Like Paul George missed a significant amount of time. Kawhi, he's chilling. He's just Kawhi. He's in the back, chilling. We don't know when he'd come back. A lot of injuries. He's in there. JB Bickerstaff has took this Cleveland Cavs team and done some great things. But I'm going to give it to a guy that maybe should have won last year, and I'm going to give it to Monty. I feel like we look at teams with the number one seed and they kind of get, no, we're not going to give it to that team, that coach for coach of the year. And like Mo, you mentioned with Spoelstra, like he should get more consideration. He has his team as the number one seed. Like,
like he's acknowledged as an all-time coach. So like he got a bigger nod than winning coach of the year.
And of course he's in the top 15 coaches of all time. And that's a tremendous honor, but he should be getting more love for coach of the year. Like what he's done. He's dealing with a lot of personalities too. Like that's the underrated aspect of coaching is dealing with the personalities that he's got to deal with. And we saw what happened, not too long ago, on the bench. He was ready to scrap. And you know what? That should get you a couple more points for coach of the year. He's ready to scrap with Jimmy, So, but I'm going to give it to Monty. He's had to deal with injuries too. Chris Paul's missed, I believe, 20, 15 games, I believe, and all that. Booker's missed some time. Ayton's missed some time, and he has his team with 64 wins, number one seed. They're playing tremendous on both ends of the ball, 64 and 17. Like they're absolutely just dominating the West. And the West we all know how the West is. It is tough and he's doing that. I think who's the 2 seed right now? Memphis.
Yeah.
Memphis, and they got an 8-game lead over Memphis. Like they have just absolutely just ran through the league. Everyone thought, okay, when CP went down, maybe they'll come back to life. But Booker stepped up his game. Everyone stepped up the game. Mikal Bridges, Ayton, and all that campaign and all that stepped up. And Cam Johnson also, they have played tremendous basketball. JaVale McGee was a nice pickup for them in off season. He needs to get his love. I think he's the coach of the year. You got to give it to me. Best team all year, essentially, other than that 1-3 star where people were like, oh my God, they're a fluke. They have been flawless since then, So to me, Monty Williams, coach here, a lot of guys, like you guys mentioned, Taylor Jenkins is definitely, to me, he's 2. I put him as the 2, as what he's done, especially with Ja missing, over 20 games has been great. But I'm going to give it to Monty. Monty is my coach of the year. So, all right. So Mo picked Nick Nurse. Ken picked Ken Jenkins. I'm going with Monty Williams as my coach of the year. Let's go with defensive player of the year. Mo, who's your defensive player of the year? I think I know.
No, it's not who you think. And I think for me, I do factor in how many games you've played. And I want to go Bam Adebayo, right? Like that's where I want to go. But I think he's missed a few too many games. Like, I know he's probably eligible for it, but I think he's missed a few too many games. And so I'm going to go to the best rim protector that essentially is in the conversation for defensive player of the year every year. I'm going to go Rudy Gobert. Like, I'm going to keep it basic, and I'm going to go Rudy Gobert. I know a lot of people don't like Rudy Gobert. I'm not a fan of Rudy, but when it comes to what he does on the defensive side of the ball, we can never question his impact defensively. And so what he averages almost 2 blocks a game, double digits in rebounds, and most of those are defensive rebounds. I got to give it to Rudy Gobert. It's just he's always in the conversation, right? Like because he's such a rim protector, because he's such an elite rebounder, he's always going to be in that conversation. And I think like we start trying to pick ways of why should we not pick Rudy Gobert? The same way we go into MVP, and it's like it's the same 3 to 4 players that are in the conversation. Like they did it to Michael Jordan at one point. They did it to Kobe Bryant. They did it to LeBron James, where you start like, okay, let's pick somebody else just for the sake of picking somebody else, so it's not the same person every year. So for me, I'm going Rudy Gobert. I'm going to give him his flowers of what he is defensively. And he's been consistent. For years, he's literally been consistent at what his role is. And we talk about, the conversation where we go back to like how we felt about Ben Wallace and his impact on the rebounding side and on the defensive side is what essentially made him a Hall of Famer. It's the same type of conversation for Rudy Gobert in a different light. Is he Ben Wallace? Is he Big Bad Ben? No, he's not. But his impact on the defensive side of the ball and on the boards is exactly what will make him have a case. If he was to get a championship, like that would be his Hall of Fame case, is like, I was the modern day Ben Wallace. I was to basketball in today's game what Ben Wallace was back then. Maybe not, like I said, in the lovelier light. I think more people were fans of Ben Wallace. I think people are starting to get tired of Rudy Gobert. I think they feel like he's holding Utah back. And we see you start to fall in love with Donovan Mitchell. So, you know, Rudy Gobert becomes the villain. But that's my defensive player of the year. I'm going with Rudy Gobert.
So Rudy Gobert for Mo. Ken, that would be his 4th defensive player of the year, I think.
Ken almost threw up in his mouth, by the way.
When I know Ken's not a big Rudy fan. So, Ken.
I'm not a big Rudy fan either, but, you know.
I don't think a lot of people
I hate him as much as like Kenneth and Cole. Like Kenneth and Cole, they hate Rudy Gobert. I don't think I hate him.
I don't hate Rudy Gobert. I just think this is a down Utah and Rudy Gobert year. I mean, you look at Utah defensive rating this year, they're 11th in the NBA as a team. And I think it's a down year for him. He's missed some time as well. So did Bam. I think Marcus Smart's the defensive player of the year this year. I really do. I look at the fact that Boston is 2nd in defensive rating this year, which is not something that you would think with this Boston team because they do play relatively small compared to other teams. But I think a big reason why they've been able to do what they do is because of Marcus Smart. Like we talk all the time about Tatum and Brown, but Marcus really sets the tone on the defensive side. He's the Draymond to the Stephen Clay in Golden State. Like I think he can guard multiple positions. He's averaging almost 2 steals a game this year. They're playing great team defense. I think it's because he's been a floor general for them in that sense. So for me, it's Marcus Smart. I'm not hating on Rudy Gobert here. I just think it's a down year for him and Utah as a whole. So I got to give it to Marcus Smart this year.
I mean, and we talk about that defense since the turn of the year. Boston's defense is just they have been stifling. In. They have been locked in. They have been locked in, and big reason why they've made this surge. Right? We talked about Boston early in the season. It was like, whoa, they got to trade this guy, they got to trade that guy, Marcus Smart trade. They got to trade him. He got to be gone. They need to, they got to reshuffle this whole roster. What are they doing? Now they went from dysfunction to they might come out of the East, and Marcus Smart's a big reason for that. What he can do on the perimeter as a defender, and the big reason why their defense has been so good since the turn of since 2022, since the start of 2022. So big reason why. But for me, I'm going to go with Bam. I'm going with Bam. I think a lot of his stuff is you don't see on the stat sheet per se, and I think that can hurt him because you don't see the stats. Where with Rudy, you see the rebounds, the defensive rebounds, you see the blocks and all that. To me, with him, like what he can do essentially, and he just talked about this on the pod on his. I think he was on with JJ.
Yeah.
He could guard 1 through 5, and he has. I think his defensive matchup rating, which is a stat that I didn't think existed, but it does, and I kind of like it. That's one like nerdy stat I kind of like. I think he's in like the top 10 of like most difficult matchups, and he's guarding a lot of the tougher. He's guarding the tough perimeter players in this league, and he's doing a good job. And he's what he can do. Big reason why Miami's defense is I think they're top 5 in defensive efficiency. And big reason why they're number 1 seed. So you add I think he's up everyone's defensive intensity. Minus Jimmy's going to be Jimmy, but everyone else seems like they've been Tahiro's been better on defense. Even Duncan Robinson has been better on defense and all that. So to me, I think he's the defensive player of the year. What he can do on a nightly basis, you don't always see on the stat sheet. Guard multiple positions. You don't have to worry about switch. On pick and rolls because he can be able to pick up whoever and not be a liability. Right? A lot of guys, even Rudy, I'd say you put him in a pick and roll, you can get past him. But Bam, you can't. And so to me, that's my defensive player here. Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat. All right, let's go with the rookie of the year. Ken, who's your rookie of the year?
Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes to me is the rookie of the year this year. And the numbers don't really jump out to you because of the offensive side, but 15, 7, and 3 is very good for a rookie season. And he's shooting 49% on the wing. For a guy that the main reason why he wasn't ahead of a lot of other players in that draft was, well, his offense, it's going to take some time to develop. That was always what it was about. We knew that his defense was good, and he's been as advertised on the defensive side of things. He's a complete two-way player already in his first year. At 15, 7, and 3, he's been available for 73 games, which that's up there in today's NBA. Like, we're not going to see many like 82 game guys anymore, like just with like resting guys and whatever. Like, it's just we won't see it. So anytime you're above 70 games, to me, I think that's huge. I think Mobley gets not DQ'd, but like it hurts his case, the fact that he's missed a bit of time, especially down the stretch here with some injuries. I think they're pretty comparable when you look at the offensive numbers. They're both good defensive guys. So because he is available more, that's why I have him ahead. And then Cade, like his shooting numbers to me are just too low. And 41% from the field, 31% from three. It's not great. He's had some very good games, especially the second half of this year. Like he's really shown why he's the number one overall pick. But if I'm talking start to finish, this guy's been consistent. He's been great on both sides, and he's been as advertised. I got to go Scotty Barnes.
Scotty, I mean, during my, doing a lot of the draft stuff, it's not that I didn't like him. I still had him like, I think like sixth overall on my board, around there, like 5 or 6. So it wasn't like I was like in the 20s with him. Like I still liked him, but I was like, I didn't think the offense would come around quick enough. I thought it may take some time, if it, at all, and he's one of those guys that we see in college, right? And we all know how college works. College can be a little slow paced. You may not be able to see the whole bag, right? Someone's whole bag. And he's one of those guys where like it kind of felt like at Florida State, he kind of got, strapped and you weren't able to see a lot of it. And now at the NBA where you can do a lot more stuff, be more freer, play more transition, more faster pace. We're seeing that, he has a lot more.
And that's the Leonard Hamilton system in Florida State too. That's why it's tough to judge him, because he's like the Nick Nurse of college, where like he'll go 8, 9, 10, 11 guys deep just to have all these different rotations that he wants to have. And so Barnes can almost get lost in the shuffle because he's not seeing as many minutes as some of these other guys, but he's been so good this year. Like great drafting once again by Masai Ujiri. Like it was not popular up here when Scotty Barnes was the pick and it wasn't Jalen Suggs. And I don't think anyone's saying that now. Not a chance.
Nope. I think, and like you said, they know how to draft wings there. They definitely know how to draft wings or acquire wings. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, they just know how to draft wings, develop their wings. They just know how to develop, period. And to me, he went to the perfect situation. I don't know if he would have been this player had he gone to Orlando, had he gone to Detroit or somewhere else. He's in the perfect situation for his development, and he has exceeded the higher expectations than I ever thought. I'm gonna go through this quick, because I know Mo, you got to dip soon. All right, who's your rookie of the year?
Scotty Barnes, for everything that Kenneth said, and then when you look at it. When you look at expectations that you had on each rookie, like you thought Jalen Suggs was, you had a lot of expectations on Jalen Suggs. We had a lot of expectations for Cade Cunningham. We knew he was going to play on a bad team. But like Scotty Barnes kind of exceeded expectations. Like you said, we thought, with being in Florida State, like maybe he was a product of the system. So like we needed to see more, like his bag was hidden a little bit. Mm-hmm. But then like, I don't like necessarily to talk about winning when it comes to individual awards, but it does matter a little bit when you exceeded expectations as an individual player and contributed to a winning team. So I think with everything Scotty Barnes has done is he exceeded expectations that, and y'all know I'm not a big NBA draft guy, but both of y'all are. And so whatever expectations y'all have for Scotty Barnes, like you said, he was probably 6, but now if he's considered the best rookie this year, he exceeded expectations, right? Like he was probably 6 on your big board. Mm-hmm. We were surprised when they went Scotty Barnes. We thought it'd be Jalen Suggs for the simple fact we thought about fit. We thought about expectations for each guy coming in. So we're like, oh, man, Scotty Barnes, like, man, he was a few spots too high probably. So I think for all of that, I think Scotty Barnes is rookie of the year.
Scotty Barnes. All right, so my pick, Scotty Barnes is obviously a good pick. He's probably second on mine. I'm going to go with Cade Cunningham. I know he's, first few games, people are like, he's a bust. I remember seeing that as an actual like ESPN show, like, did they make a mistake?
2 games.
After like 2-3 games, I think he shot like 1 of 23 from 3.
Yeah, because he came out horrible, and it was like, is he a bust? It's like, bro, the man, it takes 15 games for people to get into like games.
It was after his second game.
Yeah, and
His
he was hurt,
second game in the
and he was
NBA,
coming off
and
an
he was a
injury.
bust.
Yeah, and people. So like, obviously the shooting that you just look at the shooting numbers, not the greatest, but how he's played over the last few months, I think he's taken over Mobley. Mobley probably was the lock early on. Barnes took at one point was rookie of the year. To me, Cade, how he's played down the stretch has been Detroit. And like I said, we're not I don't like to factor in wins, but they've been in games. Like I know their record doesn't show that, but they have been in games. For a very young team, he's kept them in a lot of close games. And he's just played really great basketball of late. 17, 5-5, 6-6 almost, on a very young basketball team. Like I said, that, he has a very promising future. I think he's been fairly consistent. He's played he's been very fairly consistent on the floor. Like I said, on a team that's very young, very, very young. Barnes has a lot of good pieces around him that helps him and all that. Same thing with Mobley. So I'm going to go with Cade Cunningham. He's been great, especially since the turn of the new year. So I'm going to go with Cade Cunningham. All right, Mo, I know you say you got to leave soon. So we're going to finish it off.
I'll just do my MVP and then I'll let you hold down the first.
Well, me and Ken will hold down the first team and all that, but the MVP of the National Basketball Association is
Joel Embiid. And it's very close. Now, I don't say that with but it's only a three-headed race. There's only three people. There's only two other guys you could give me that I won't argue it. You have a point. I won't argue your point, obviously. But to me, it's Joel Embiid. And here's my problem with the MVP is we forget, not us, but people forget there's 82 games in a season. So when we're evaluating awards, we have to stop evaluating everything from post-All-Star. Because that's when it's really been close. Giannis has played absolutely well. Nikola Jokic has played absolutely well. So is Joel Embiid. But for me, where I would separate Joel Embiid, where I just give him the slight nod over those guys, is that go back to the beginning of the season. Ben Simmons isn't playing. Philly looks like it's a dumpster fire, right? And we wouldn't have been surprised if not they're a bad team. They still should have been a playoff team, but not one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Like maybe they play that where they're borderline of playing, maybe coming into the beginning of the season. And so they were going to be a great team based off Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid was going to have to play MVP level basketball and be healthy to keep Philly afloat while they tried to decide what they were going to do with Ben Simmons. We know they were willing to hold on to Ben Simmons and not trade him and keep him out all year. And Philly was playing really well. They've played really well all year. And it's become such a close race. Nikola Jokic has played absolutely amazing all year. So is Giannis. But everything has been like recency. Like, what have you done for me lately? And so we look at the past 15 games leading up to the award, and that's where everybody starts to separate why it's Jokic or why it's Embiid or why it's Giannis or whoever. And we know this was a tight race between like six guys the first 20-something games of the season. Injuries play a factor, things like that. That's when everybody starts separating. But for me, it's Joel Embiid, and it's very close. But he's a monster. Like he's played like a monster. So I just have to give him the nod. He was an MVP candidate last year. Then he got hurt. But for him to have been able to stay healthy, put up the numbers he's had, ever since we've done the he went dumb segment, even Kenneth made the joke because he's been going dumb. It's like, do I only watch Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid? But it's like, those have been the guy, or Jokic, because those have been like my main guy, but they're always putting up the numbers. He just put up 41 and 20.
Yeah.
Like last night, or 2 nights ago, he just put up 41 and 20. And it's not that he's the only one capable. Jokic almost averages a triple-double, so it's such a close race. But for me, I got to give the nod to Joel Embiid because of where Philly's at right now. It's literally been on the back of Joel Embiid's play and how well he's played lately. How well he played in the beginning of the season as well. He came out and didn't let the whole Ben Simmons thing stop him from his grind, lose focus of playing absolutely amazing. And so even when they got James Harden, for Philly to still be a team that we look at could win the championship, we were like, man, they added Harden. They had no Ben Simmons, and they added James Harden to a guy who's been playing like a monster. Like, they could win a championship. Now I think expectations have died down a little bit because Joel Embiid, even it started off great, right? Like James Harden, they won the first 5 games they played together. Mm-hmm. Everything flowed, and then James Harden just randomly took a step back, but there was one constant. Philly was still winning some games, and the constant was Joel Embiid is still playing like a monster. We're focused on James Harden. He only 18 points. He ain't getting to free throw line as much. He was 7 for 23, from the field. So we're focusing on that. Meanwhile, Joel Embiid he dropped 35, 10, and 5 assists. But because Harden played, we look past that and we're like, man, we're looking at why is Philly struggling, not the individual play of the MVP candidate. So for me, it's Joel Embiid.
All right. So Mo, like I said, appreciate you being on the pod. I know you got to go. So that's Mo's MVP is Joel Embiid. So we'll see how that goes. Mo, appreciate you being on the pod. Like I said, it's been a while since you've been on Off the Ball. So appreciate you being on, buddy.
Yeah, 100%. I'll catch y'all later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the great Mo Murphy. Ken, who's your MVP?
So Mo does make good points about Embiid. I don't want this year, though, to turn into Embiid should have won it last year, and then he got hurt. So this year we need to make up for it by giving Embiid the award. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's where it's trending. And I don't like that it's trending that way because, let's face it, Jokic's MVP last year was because a lot of guys got hurt. It was the last man standing MVP. That was the narrative around his MVP season. But to me, this year, he is truly the MVP. He talked about Embiid not having Simmons. He still had Tyrese Maxey all year. He still had Tobias Harris all year. Prior to getting James Harden, he still had Andre Drummond and Seth Curry. Mm-hmm. Now, you look at Jokic's team. He's had no Jamal Murray. He's had virtually no Michael Porter Jr. And we knew coming into this year Murray wasn't going to be playing. Michael Porter Jr. got paid a fat contract to do absolutely nothing this year. So who have his best role players been? It's been Will Barton. It's been Monte Morris. It's been Aaron Gordon. All guys that don't hold a candle to the role players that Embiid has had all year. So Jokic has played more games this year. He's played 74 to Embiid's 68. Jokic is 27, 14, and 8, shooting 58% and nearly 34% from three as a center. Now Embiid's got the higher scoring numbers, less rebounding numbers, less assist numbers. His shooting percentage is lower, but his three-point percentage is higher. So Jokic has only won 2 less games than Joel Embiid in still a tough Western Conference. Like, we talk about the East being deeper than ever, but like the West still has Dallas,
exactly,
Memphis, and Golden State and Utah, and he's kept them out of that play-in game situation with virtually no help all season long. So Jokic has also improved a lot defensively from last year. He was a defensive liability at times last year for Denver, and he's really stepped it up on the defensive side of things. And when it comes to MVP, I feel like, at the 10-game mark, we've got a list of 10 guys. And for me, every 10 games, we lose a player from that list. Like, as we start to get to 30 games, it's down to 8. And once you get to 50 games, it's down to 6. Now, to me, it's down to 2. Giannis has been great this year. To me, he is third place, but it's not a slight against him. He's been so good for Milwaukee.
He probably wins in any other year, like with the stats
the
he's just putting up.
It's what it is. It's that really he's so good at everything on the basketball court that we're like, well, it's got to be somebody else. But to me, Jokic, he's done it with less help. He's played more games. He's done it at a higher percentage. He's improved on the defensive side of things. To me, this is like his true MVP season. And it's unfortunate. And, Embiid, I did see him. He went on that show and he's like, man, I don't know what else I can do. And it's like, that's fair. But like, this is his first year where he's played enough games, been fully healthy all year to get the nod. There's just been a guy that's been slightly better. Because to me, it's 1A, 1B. My preference is Jokic because he's done it with less. I see the argument for Embiid as well. As long as it's one of those two, I really don't have an issue with it. I just think Jokic should get the award given that he's done it with less.
Ken, you might have convinced me as we're doing the show that I might have to flip over. I've literally gone back and forth with 3 guys. And the guys you just mentioned, Giannis, Joker, and Embiid. To me, this is probably the toughest MVP discussion, that we've had in a while. I don't remember 3 guys, they're not top of my head. Remember three
We
guys.
had the 2-man of Harden and LeBron the one year, but like
Yeah,
three guys
three guys.
we
Yeah,
haven't had in a while.
that are deserving. Like if you
Yeah,
say
fully
Giannis,
deserving.
because there was a point I'm like Giannis is the MVP. I just feel like he's people. It's the voter fatigue effect, right? I mean, you just look at his stats and you just look at his play. You're like, he's averaged a 30 and 12, and he's improved as a mid-range shooter. Like his free throws, he's an improved free throw shooter where he's shooting above, I think, 73%. And you're like, he's pretty freaking good. He's still doing what he does defensively. Like he's still an MVP. But like you said, voter fatigue. Embiid, I was like, all right, maybe it's MVP. He just locked up, the scoring title, which is like, the first time a big is done, I believe since Shaq, and averaging 30, which is just really impressive. But like you said with Joker, man, we talk about what Embiid hasn't had, right? And that's always the thing. Oh, he didn't have Simmons all year. He only had Harden for, Harden is not Harden, didn't have set all these guys he's missing. But then you're like, he has not had Jamal Murray all year, Jokic. Michael Porter Jr. played a handful of games, is out for the season. Like he's second best player is Will Barton, Rivers, so it's like he's not working with a lot. Like any other player, maybe. I mean, that if you just look at that roster, that's probably maybe a play-in team, maybe a play-in team, and I think you just switched me. I think. It's like you said last year. Maybe he won MVP because Embiid got hurt and people just didn't want to vote for Giannis for a third straight year, and the LeBron and all that. He deserves it this year. He's earned it. Like I think he has 66 double doubles. I think all but 6 games he has a double double. Right. Yeah. I think he leads the league in triple doubles. Just his play, like you said, defensively has improved, and they're the 6th seed. That team should not be a 6th seed. In the West, they should not be a 6th seed. They have played way better than I thought. They struggled early on, but they have played pretty solid basketball, and it's just impressive. And you just look at the way he plays on the court, what the impact he makes. He is a tremendous. I mean, he's better than some of the point guards in this league as a passer. So there's so much he does, not just scoring the basketball and all that. That helps this team go. And
Denver to me was a 7 to 9 seed, knowing that Jamal Murray wasn't going to play, and that was with Michael Porter Jr. playing the season. Like he was a 20-point per game guy last year.
Yeah,
and then he doesn't play, and Embiid and Jokic exceeds my expectations even, and they're a top 6 seed. They're not even in the play-in game, and they're a couple games up on Minnesota for the play-in games. So
yeah,
I want it to be Jokic because I feel like if he only sits there with one MVP, it's going to be, well, he won it because he was the last man standing. But to me, he's the true MVP this year. And Embiid, like, it's so tough. Like, they're both so good at what they do. And, like, I don't know. I hope that it's Jokic, but I could see it going either way with Giannis in third, and it's not like he's a distant third.
Yeah. And you just look at, if you want to just compare each other, they take the same amount of threes, right? So then you just look at their overall field goal percentage. I think Embiid is around, let me look,
49.
So he's 49 point, so he's essentially a 50%, shooter. And then you look at Jokic almost at 59%. So that's a big difference. That's a big difference, and and that's with Embiid taking 2 more shots a game than Jokic. And that's with Jokic he is the offense. Like he is the primary, at least like you said, there's Maxey, there's James Harden now. So there's guys that Joel can play off of. So like, to me, this is tough because this is the last day, we're talking on Sunday. This is the last day of the NBA season. And I'm still like, it's a toss up. Like if you say Jokic, okay. You say Embiid at one point, Giannis. It's tough, but if I had to pick, I think, Ken, you made me switch over from Embiid to Jokic because what he's doing this year is just absolutely, like, he's having a historical season. And if I had to vote right now, I think Nikola is the MVP, and he went back to back, and it solidifies it because, like you said, last year maybe he won it because Embiid happened to miss game, but now I think the missed game stuff has kind of been overblown. Like guys are going to miss game. I think we just have to accept that
to
guys
me,
are going to miss games.
As long as you're above 65 for MVP, other awards just above 60, because then look, if you miss a quarter of the season, that's fine. Anything less than that, though, that's when you start to disqualify guys. And I mean, Embiid's at 68. That's fine. Jokic for 74. That's really
fine.
impressive.
Yeah. 68 games is fine. I know Ja kind of hurt himself. If you're in that 50 range, I could be okay. And I believe that's what happened with Joel last year. I would have to look exactly how many games he played last year, but I think that was kind of what hurt him last year with the MVP.
Yeah, he fell to 55, and then you're like, oh, that's tough. It disqualifies you just in a sense where if you're that
he played 51 last year. So that's too low. Him playing 51 games, it's hard for me to be all right. Even though you're those 51 games, you were playing at an MVP level, the best player in basketball. When the guy who's second is playing, I believe 70 plus games, it's
the best ability is availability, and that's what it boils down to. Because when you look at how close it is, you're looking for things to pick out of why isn't it this guy or why is it this guy? And games can be one of those determining factors. I don't like factoring it in when they're separated by 5 games. I know I pointed out that they were 6-game difference, but that doesn't really matter in the grander scheme of things.
No, it definitely doesn't. So we just capped off our awards. And we're going to do one more thing. We're not going to go through all NBA, but this has been a hot topic because obviously all NBA is very, can be controversial, especially the way they have it set up where it's still, 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. So Ken, let's go through your all NBA team. Who you got?
So because we can't have 2 centers, which is absurd,
and that's why
which
we've talked about this offline, and I've said this, we've talked about this forever. That
because to me,
just cut off the positions and just be who's the 5
if we're talking front court, it should be Giannis, Jokic, Embiid. That should be your NBA first team. So if for whatever reason you have to take a center out, Embiid falls out, I move up DeMar DeRozan into the forwards because I think what he's done with Chicago this year, he's been phenomenal. Remember that last year, people were dreading getting DeMar DeRozan in free agency.
I couldn't believe it either.
Which is absurd.
I could not believe it.
The issue is they painted him with the brush of he's still Toronto DeMar, who's going to put up 25 to 30 shots. He doesn't make guys better. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't defend. He became a much better all-around player when he was under Popovich, and it really showed this year in Chicago. So for me, if we're classifying DeMar as a forward, then he gets the forward nod. If he's a guard, then it would be Tatum. But we'll say DeRozan for now. And then my backcourt, I got to go Luka, and I got to go Devin Booker. And I know a lot of people want Steph there. A lot of people might want Ja there.
Steph hasn't had that's just probably Steph's 6th.
This is a down year for Steph.
6th best season. It's not really. It's a good year for most people. Great year.
He had a great first half.
For him, he hasn't shot the ball as good as people think.
Yeah, he had a great first half of the year, and then he petered off in the second half. You have to give credit to the fact that Phoenix is clearly the best team in the NBA, and Devin Booker's been the best player on the Phoenix Suns, and he's put up great numbers for them. So for me, it's him and it's Luka. The fact that Dallas is, a lot of people didn't like that Porzingis trade. It's been night and day for them since they got rid of him and they brought in Dinwiddie, they brought in Bertans. It's just Luka and a bunch of shooters, and it's beautiful basketball to watch. It's a team that could shoot their way into the NBA Finals or shoot their way out of the first round. And so for me, it's if we're going Luka, we'll go Booker, and then we'll go Giannis. We'll go DeMar DeRozan and Jokic, with Embiid being on second team, which is absurd.
Okay, so you have Booker, Luka, Giannis, Jokic, and DeRozan.
Yeah.
So that's your all NBA first team. So obviously guys like LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and miss out on that. But like I said, it's tough to pick the whole fit.
I don't know.
It's tough.
Like I would have Durant on my second team. I would have LeBron on my third team. I just think his numbers have been great, but when you're the 11 seed, and I know that it's not his fault. Like he's had no help really in LA this year, but if we start, splitting hairs here, him and Durant have similar numbers, and Durant's in the playoffs and he's not. So I'd filled out my second and third team. It's crazy to me that he's doing what he is as late in his career as LeBron is. It's just unfortunate the team around him wasn't any good.
Yeah. It's hard to put you up there when your team's on the verge of a 50-loss season.
I'm not going to leave him out altogether, which I've seen some people do that, which I think is absurd. It's there's not 6 forwards in the NBA right now that you're taking over LeBron James.
No,
based off of their play this season.
Absolutely not. And it's tough to figure this out. So just to recap, you got Booker, Luka, Giannis, Joker, and DeMar DeRozan. Right?
Yep.
Correct as your all NBA team. All right. So for me, I'm gonna go with the same backcourt as you with Luka and Booker. I mean, Booker is, I think he's ended the underrated talk. He's always slept on. Those days are gone. He's a bucket. He kept that team afloat when CP3 because a lot of people were worried, right? People are like, okay, Booker, this is your time. Hey, are you truly, that dude? And he showed it. Now, obviously, we got to see in the playoffs and all that if he really is that dude, but. He did it while CP3 missed some games and all that. Luka is, what more do you got to say with Luka? Luka is freaking Luka Doncic. He's been amazing. He's since the KP trade too. It kind of feels like he kind of got freed a little bit more and more, got to do more. And he's obviously taken off since that. Jason Tatum, Giannis as my forwards. Tatum has been just tremendous, absolutely tremendous this season. And Giannis, what more we gotta say? And then obviously, I've seen some people put the two forward, they put Jokic and Embiid, one of them as the forward. By this criteria, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pick one, obviously. So I'm going to go Jokic. Since I have him as man, I can't put the MVP not on first team. That's kind of it should be illegal. You kind of can't do that. That's going to be my first team. It's going to be Tatum, Giannis, Joker, Luka, Booker.
I'm going to say this much. Because Mo's not here anymore, I'm going to be a real Rudy Gobert hater. I'm so glad if it does turn out to be 3 centers, because then we can just disqualify him from all NBA this year, because then we can go Embiid, Jokic, and Towns are your 3 centers.
Yes.
And then we don't have to talk about a guy that does nothing on the offensive side of the game for a Utah team that has underperformed overall. But I'll give you my second and third just because I had written them down already. So my next 2 guards would be Steph and Ja Morant. I know they both missed time, but to me, they're still on top 3 teams in the West. Mm-hmm. Then I have Tatum there on the second team. That was really close for me. It was really close between Tatum and DeRozan. I just feel like DeMar's had some amazing moments for Chicago this year, but Tatum's also been great. Then you move KD up to second team since we're putting DeMar on first. And then Embiid would be my center on second team. And then third team, I've got Trae Young and I've got Chris Paul is my backcourt. I still think CP3 deserves the nod as far as his play is concerned. And then Trae Young, I know that Atlanta hasn't been what we thought Atlanta was going to be, because I think a lot of people had Atlanta as a 3 or 4 seed.
I had them as a 4. I had them as a 3 or 4 seed. I thought they were going to just take off this year. I just thought they had all the pieces to obviously coming off a Eastern Conference playoff appearance, and then I thought they would definitely build off that, but it hasn't. It's still in the playoffs and they can still do some noise, but definitely not the season we anticipated.
No, and third team then for forwards, I have LeBron there. The 6th forward is a really tough one for me this year because of the way that the centers all break out and stuff. I debate between Jimmy Butler being there And I also really liked name's escaping me right now. So I'll give it to Jimmy just because I can't remember the other one. And then Towns' third team. But Towns has been so good. He's been as advertised.
I mean, he could be, if you had to if someone had put Embiid and Joker on the first team, somehow they put him as one of them as a forward. Towns would take that center spot for second.
Oh, he's second team then.
Yeah, he's second team in that case. If someone would to do it that way, he's definitely second because Timberwolves, if you want to factor in the wins, they're winning. They're finally winning.
Yep.
So that definitely bolsters it up, and he has been absolutely tremendous. He's shooting the ball well from three. I mean, we talk about maybe him being one of the best big man shooters, that we've ever seen. Shooting I think 40% from three. I mean, that's impressive on a high clip too. So he's definitely all NBA second team. If people were to put Joker and Embiid, want him as a forward on first team.
And the other two that I debated at the forward spot, one was Brandon Ingram for New Orleans.
He's been great.
He's missed some time though, which hurt. But I mean, he's like 22, 5 and 5. That's elite numbers. And then I also debated Siakam and Toronto as being on that third team because he wasn't an all-star because Van Vliet got the nod. There's just too many guards for Van Vliet to be all NBA, but I could see Siakam being there. So I'm excited for all NBA though. I'll say that much. I'm excited to see where. I really hope that we don't see a Gobert on there because I just I think that there's 15 players that are better than him, 20 players that are better than him. So
yeah,
that's my hope with it. But I do think first team to me, unless they do the weird center thing where they put both of them there, then I hope that Jokic gets the nod. We talked about it before the show though. How weird would it be if one of them wins MVP and the other one is the first team?
And
because it could happen.
It could happen. It really could. If there's a year, it's going to happen. It's this year. If there's ever a year, because the voting for the MVP is different from the voting from All NBA. So, and that's going to be the interesting thing is will we have an MVP who's on an All NBA second team? If, like I said, if it's going to happen, this is the year it's going to happen. And we've seen it with defensive players. And I know it's different, but still, it was weird when Gasol's the defensive player of the year, but he was All NBA second team. And I think what Dwight was, I'm going to assume that it feels like around that time, Dwight was All NBA, All defensive first team. So,
but the big reason why I think this could happen is because what's going to change the MVP voting is how many people actually have it as Jokic, Embiid 1, 2, and how many people are going to slight one of them by putting Giannis 2 or Giannis 1, and then it just completely throws the voting overall. Whereas, we know that Giannis is going to be All NBA first team, and then you don't know what's going to happen with the center spot. It could just be a divide. I think it's going to be really entertaining to watch, and I really hope that we get it because this podcast.
Oh yeah, I love it. It gives us more content, and it's just gonna go crazy again because people are gonna flip if that happens, because I don't recall that ever happening, not to my knowledge. Maybe back in the day, but imagine having the MVP being All NBA second team. It's unheard of, and it's going to be very interesting, very very interesting if that happens, because it could. It's not like it's like, I don't know. It's like no. It could very well happen.
It's a fun discussion point, but it's also something that's plausible. We do theoreticals all the time on shows, but this is one where it's there's a very real possibility that this could happen.
It could happen, and I'm all for it. Let's. Hey, controversy creates cash, as they say, and that would be the controversy of all controversies. And one of them would be pissed off. They know one of them. Joel, especially. How he gets salty. I want MVP, but I'm second team. It's gonna lead to some very good conversations on all shows. So we'll see what happens. But Ken, it's good to have you back. It's good to chat with you. Like I said, I haven't done a show in a little bit, but it's finally good to get back, and happy to have you and Mo back on the first show. I've had a little while on Off the Ball, and welcome, and happy to have you back on the Off the Ball Network, buddy.
Definitely, man. Appreciate you having me on the show. I'll have to get you on the Competitive Hedge podcast soon. great podcast just for sports and betting in general. A lot of great stuff coming up. Going to do a show in the next day or two once we have these playoff matchups confirmed today, just to preview those and talk some betting around those as well.
Yes, sir. And like I said, I wanted to last thing, wanted you to tell the people about your podcast. You rebranded. So tell the people a little bit more about the new podcast and then the name and all that, and where they can find you on social media.
Definitely. I retired the Shoot or Shoot basketball podcast just strictly because I like talking other sports. And when you're a basketball show, it kind of limits where you want to go with things. So given my love of just sports betting, it's a very thriving market right now, one of the fastest growing in the world. And then everything that I like to talk about, whether it be basketball, football, golf, soccer, I mean, because it's tough when it's NBA off season, and then it's like, okay, well, what the hell do you talk about when the NBA is not happening? So this gives me an opportunity to have a bit more free range, more guests on from different areas. We talk a lot about future bets and things. Funny enough, like we were going through the awards today. I looked back on my awards article that I wrote for Off the Ball Network back at the start of the year. I had Tyler Hero for 6th Man of the Year at 30-1 odds. So that one's looking pretty good. I didn't have Jokic. I think I had Doncic for MVP. But I did have Rookie of the Year as Cade Cunningham at the time at plus 250. That's who you had for Rookie of the Year. So let's see what happens with that award. We could see that one cashing if you rolled with it. And then a lot of other fun topics that we've had on the show. Going to get back into doing some draft stuff. Both NBA draft and fun hypothetical drafts as well, because now that we have a bit more free range with the show, going to start touching on those as well. So appreciate you having me on, man. Happy to be back at the network and get things rolling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're going to get into all that good stuff. Like I said, drafts coming, so NBA draft season, especially our team. Well, your team doesn't have picks, so drafts.
Yeah, I'll be talking about every other team's picks.
You talk about everyone else. My team's back in the lottery. Hey, we're back in the lotto, baby. Can't wait to get made fun of on lottery when we're not even
get
close
RJ
to
Barrett his co-star that he needs.
Yeah. With the 12th pick, people want the Knicks to lose these last 2 games for no reason, as if our odds are gonna, we're gonna jump to 12.
Change, right?
Yeah, it's gonna go to the 12 to 11, guys. Again, so excited. But like I said, Ken, thanks for coming on. Thanks for Mo for coming on earlier on the pod. I know you can find me Off the Ball Pod on Twitter, Off the Ball Podcast on Instagram. Check out, like I said, make sure to go to offtheballnetwork.com. We got a lot of great stuff going on there. Check out OTB_network on Twitter. And check out all the great, content we have and all the great podcasts and all the great, talent we have. And like I said, gonna ramp up more shows as the NBA playoffs get in here and NBA draft season. That's I love NBA draft season, so we're gonna get that ramped up. Gonna drop some my big board soon, so check that out. And like I said, thanks for listening, thanks for watching. Be well, be safe, take care, and peace out, guys.